First of all, thanks, Mark. I think that Mark really is the cornerstone to this ecosystem, I have to say. For the last 12, probably at least 11 years I've known you. And my name is Alex. So I'm Swedish. I don't sound Swedish, and that's because I grew up internationally. So we grew up, my brother and I have a twin brother. We grew up in Canada, the US, Switzerland, Italy, Sweden, of course, and Germany. And we always thought we were going to be diplomats in a way. We failed miserably in becoming diplomats. We became entrepreneurs instead. And we came to Davos the first time in 2014. The year after, we started a small lunch. We were 8 people, and we called it the Swedish lunch. And today we host about 1,200 world leaders at the lunch. It's on Wednesday at the Schatzalp every Davos week. And after the pandemic, we exited our companies. Some went well, some did not go well. And we started a platform called Global Conversations. Very inspired by the community, very inspired by what people want to do and that they want to meet outside the Congress Hall. We gather a lot of interesting people from all over the world in a very short time. And this year we're hosting 26 events throughout the week. And we're extremely proud to be a part of the community. We're very happy to have Mark around us and all the other event organizers as well, many of whom you guys probably will never meet or never know about. But I think we're about 20 or so, Mark, in the group. And we talk at least bi-weekly throughout the year. Always mention some stuff. There's always something new. So it's kind of a gossip group. But I think on a final note, it's an ecosystem. So if I'm hosting an event on Monday and Mark is hosting an event on Tuesday, we're not competitors. We have to take care of the community together. We have an interest in that my event goes well, and I have an interest in that Mark's event goes well. So at the end of the day, if we have a person who comes to Davos and they don't like it, I guess the reality is that Mark, myself, and others have failed. We want them to come back. We want the community to grow, not too quick, but grow slowly but surely. And one thing that Mark always says is that, come to Davos. It's a privilege being in Davos. It's not a right. But don't make sure that people understand that you're somebody who you're not. Like, be your true self, be your true personality, because Davos will really it will really change. If it's the first time you're going to Davos, there will be a before and there will be an after. And that's what keeps us coming back every year. I say, I'm never doing this again. And then a few weeks later, we already have ideas of how we should change things and do things better next year. So thank you for hosting me, Mark. It's a pleasure. I always look forward to these type of webinars that we have every year. And any question is, I mean, I say it every year. There's no question that's too little and there's no question that's too big. The Magic Mountain is called the Magic Mountain for a reason. It's very, very special. And Mark and I have done this for 10 plus years. I think this is your 16th year.
I'm 18th year, so this would count. Let's say 10. My first Davos was 2008. So yes, like done quite a few. And so the way that this thing will work is that pose your questions up. Robin might sort of chime in to say, here are 2 or 3 questions that you need to answer. We're not going to go through each question sort of immediately as they appear, but do put in your questions. But we were thinking through, let's say, some sort of common or uncommon questions that people ask, but let's say sort of deserve to get answered. So here's one I get actually quite often. How do I get a white badge for going to the World Economic Forum? Alex, how would you answer that?
Well, I guess that there's many answers to that question, I think, honestly. So it's not something that you just get. The WEF is extremely protective of their brand, who gets in, who doesn't get in. I think that there are multiple ways technically, but I think I'm going to spare all the details. In general, I would say that if you are a quote unquote world leader, and I'm definitely not a world leader, nor do I aspire to be a world leader, but if you're a world leader, you technically contact the WEF They invite you, or you try to invite yourself, nominate yourself or so, and try to get in, and then they will send you an invoice. Once that invoice is paid, maybe you will get a white badge. Some companies pay their membership and they don't get a Davos white badge, so to speak. But I would say also that the white badge is only important if you're in sessions at the Congress Hall from 9:30 until 5 o'clock, roughly. After that and before that, there's roughly 400 sessions that are happening around the city. So I do understand that people want to aspire to get a white badge, but also I have to say that there's a big responsibility with coming with a white badge as well, because your schedule will be at a different level. There are different demands on what you can and cannot do. Whereas I think being a part of the auxiliary community, if you will, you have a lot more freedoms to roam around, to look what's interesting, to follow new trends. Multiple times, Mark, we've seen everybody being extremely planned for Davos, and then something happens Tuesday afternoon, and then suddenly it just shifts into a whole different trajectory. And the sessions that people thought were interesting 10 days before suddenly were not interesting at all because something else happened. So I think that take your time, get to know the system first. I think it's good starting in the auxiliary space. And then after 2 or 3 years, you'll find out, is the white badge something for me and my company? It's very expensive, but you'll find out if it is or not. I think that's a fair answer, I guess.
Well, so I mean, and my take on this. So I was a so for those of you people who don't know, so what is a WEF white badge? It means that the World Economic Forum, the WEF, invites you to participate in the annual meeting, and the color of badge that you get will be white with some version of stripe and some little logo based on what community you're in. So I was a WEF white badge 2008 and 2009. I came in as a technology pioneer, which meant a technology pioneer up here. And that meant that I was in the Congress Center those days. Now, in those days, there were very, very few side events. I think there were only 3 pop-up venues on the street. I think India Pavilion at Schneider's, maybe Zurich Insurance and Aberdeen Asset Management, but that was it. And so, I mean, I would say that so the WEF is an important anchor around it, and I genuinely, like 99% sure that were the WEF to choose a different city to move things into, as long as there was enough space, the whole side event world would follow along. So, and how do we know this? Well, already when the WEF was trying to, like during COVID, navigate COVID times, whenever the WEF would change its mind about where to go to, the side event community would go to the same place. So, and that's really, and it's not because of going to the WEF, it's that the convening power that because of political leaders come, this pulls in a lot of national country leaders. And we're seeing this in absolute spades with the Trump administration coming into Davos, but we can maybe talk about that because I'd be interested in your view. But what it means then is that having a white badge and going to the Congress Center, I mean, I found it was extremely valuable. At the same time, though, when for me the ticket price of being a white badge went from 30,000 to effectively 100,000 francs, that wasn't worth it because then it was really marginal. Particularly when I was just my first year, I was only in the Congress Center. My second year, I was only in the Congress Center, I think about 7 hours, maybe 8 hours tops the whole week because I found the sessions boring. There weren't enough coffee shops, which means there weren't enough place to actually sit down and have a coffee. Whenever you sat down, there was always somebody spying on you, or you were spying on somebody else. And the places where they had nice lounges for all the sort of strategic partner spaces, and they wouldn't let you in. Okay, I'll go to the hotels. I think the other thing is that the WEF itself doesn't do breakfast. It doesn't even do cocktails. So the WEF has no programming before breakfast, like no breakfast programming. It has no evening program, and their lunch is really nothing to talk about. So the whole like 2,700 people from the Congress Center always were migrating across to the hotels and other places. And what I would say is that if you do want to get a white badge, if you're asking for a white badge now, you're too late. And if you're asking for a white badge now without knowing anything, you're not going to get one, and probably you don't deserve one either. The WEF has no interest in people just coming in for a badge. I mean, if you want to do that, that's why Dubai exists. So if you want to bling your way through, go to Dubai or other nice places. Um, I think the WEF would rather have long-term agreements with people. They also have a number of incredibly good programs that I recommend. Technology Pioneer is the one that I was part of, and I think many of the people in Davos were tech pioneers. Um, they have an intake every year. They take in now, I think, about 100 companies a year. Incredibly good program. You get great access. It's relatively inexpensive. So totally would do that. There's more sort of innovator programs. There's global innovators. There's also unicorn programs too. There's the Scrub Social Entrepreneurs, which is good. But then generally, if a company wants to get into the WEF, there are a few people to sort of send a mail to, and they will help you navigate into the World Economic Forum. And these are WEF people.
I mean, there's
Um,
different venues, right? I mean, you can go in as an NGO, you can go as a political person sometimes, depends if you're a head of state or something like that. That's a whole different trajectory in.
yeah, I mean, and by the way,
CEO.
heads of, and I think maybe there was a misspeak. So heads of state will never have to pay. So
Exactly,
it's the
exactly.
yeah. So but as a corporate, yes. Um, and the but I mean, so generally, oops, crash. Excuse me. Make sure that my computer didn't fall apart.
You're all good, Mark.
Again. Nope, everything works. It's good. The okay. So, um, but yes, I mean, yeah, it's not impossible to do, but generally speaking, if you're trying to get planned to do that in December next year. Now, at the
Yeah.
same time, then if you're able to meet WEF people, being involved in the things, and the WEF has got an extremely strong community. I mean, I got huge value out of being a member. So right now, I think there are a lot of huge benefits in doing it. Um, it is priced to the level that you really have to think about it. So that's also not bad too. But so yeah, but if anybody is still trying to get in and anything else, happy to have a little chat. Just don't expect people to, let's say, burn serious relationship capital to help get you in. The majority of people that I have spoken to me wanting to get into the WEF suddenly disappear as soon as they have to do anything serious. So yeah. But I just thought that was a question. What's
Yeah,
coming
but
up for you, Alex? Is sort of other things that bubble through or questions
well,
that we see in the chat?
first of all, a lot of things, but I wanted to touch point a little bit on. So, you guys who are going to Davos, and I hope all of you are, and even more, you'll hear about a badge called accredited badges, and it's changed name from affiliate badge to accredited badge. In short, and this is a very square way to say it, but most white badges have a few accredited badges that they could attach to their company, if you will. You'll see them; they kind of look like white badges, but they have a different color. Um, they're not official Congress Hall white badges. They look very similar. They have the same strap. They'll have the same clip, similar process, but that's basically a hotel badge plus plus. So it gets you into the secure hotels, but also this year into the Hilton and also into Ice Village. So just to
And,
run that a little bit short because it
well,
will like while we're on the subject.
and maybe then if I sort of describe to the wider audience, so there's like you don't need a badge to go to Davos. The town is completely open. Most events are open. Almost all the hotels, apart from two, are open to people. So there's the you don't need a badge world. Next level is that the hotel badge, and that only applies to this year to the Steigenberger Belvedere and the Alpengold Hotel. You need to get to get and do any event in those things, you will need to get a hotel badge. The next thing is then it's the affiliate badge. This is a World Economic Forum badge, affiliate or accredited. I can't remember the
It's
word for it this
accredited
year.
this year. They changed it. I got confused. I had to read it 5 times just to memorize it's accredited. So you're not the only one, Mark, who gets confused.
So what that allows you to do is that it allows you to get into the security zone hotels plus the Ice Village, which is the partner village, and also into the Hilton and that sort of private area. Before, for those people that had hotel badges last year, you could go to the Hilton and go through the promenade. That's now blocked off, and it's only these accredited badges. And then the final level up is the WEF annual meeting badges, which could be white, they could be orange, they could be green, blue, black, all kinds of different colors. So, but yes, the accredited one is this middle thing. Now, there are about 1,500 accredited badges printed, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
There is a cost. So I think the FT covered it that the cost last year was 1,000 francs each.
Yep.
They're issued only by the World Economic Forum, and you can pretty much only get them. Well, I think the primary way is through a strategic partner or country. There might be some if you are staying or connected to something in the Hilton, but if you're having to ask now about getting one, you're probably not going to get one.
No. I
You had
mean,
one. You had one last year. So what was your
yeah,
experience? Actually, you went to the ice village last. What was it like?
I didn't go a lot. I went a few times. I would say that I do understand that the ice village exists, but I didn't find it that productive. Honestly, I think most people went there to get their accredited badge, and then they kind of left. However, I mean, some people use it. I probably used it in the wrong way, in all fairness. But I think that looking into how the system works, it's just that people think initially that you have a white badge, but you don't. You don't have a white badge. But I also have to say that lots of former white badges have hotel badges. Lots of former white badges have no badge and they still show up. I mean, you have to understand that let's assume that you're a former white badge for whatever reason, that you're top of your game. If you're just going for one day, why would you go through all the hassle to do this? Just take the train from Zurich, go up on Wednesday, do your meetings, and then go back again. If you're important, people are going to meet you. So I would say with the same token, if you're dedicated to be there the whole week, plan for it. There's still availability to plan for it, but I would say that it's 12 days until Christmas. So I think what happened now is that they it will be difficult unless you really put your heart and effort into it.
So it's maybe one thing that I think is worthwhile saying. So we're sort of jumping into the minutiae of, let's say, how to do it. But you speak to a lot of people coming to Davos and organizations. Why? Why are they coming to Davos? Well, what's the point?
Well, I would say that, many people say, like, why are people spending the money? And that's usually the question, because if it would be at a lower budget, I think people would not ask the same question. But why go through the hassle monetary wise, but also through the hassle of climbing the mountain literally, and also sleeping in various areas because accommodation is always a difficult place. I think that in comparison to traveling the world for like 3 months, going to Davos and meeting the world is worth it. But if you want to get to certain people and try to meet them all throughout a whole year, it would cost you probably more than going to Davos for 4 or 5 days. That's what I think. But I also think the second advantage to going to Davos is that it's right in the beginning of the year. Apologies. But I think that it sets the tone for the year. So if you had a bad year behind you, now it's ended, and you can look forward into 2026. If you had a good year, you can have those that air in your wings and kind of fly right through it. But so many times do we talk about things in Davos, and again, I'm just in the sidelines of this. We speak about things in Davos that then show up to the general public in like August. It doesn't mean that we know something that other people don't. It's fairly public domain. But I would say that we're kind of more prepared on a certain subject for a few months. When it hits the rest of the world in August, it's the first time they hear it. Whereas we've kind of been speaking about it for 4 or 5 months and kind of looking at it and saying, okay, so we're just a little bit more prepared. It's not that we know anything that nobody else does. It's there's no secrets, there's no conspiracy. But it's kind of like you've already done push-ups for 6 months, and it's not difficult to do it again after 6 months. But if it's the first time you're doing it, then you'll have an uphill battle. So I think that's kind of the biggest advantage, is that you're kind of ahead of everybody else, and you're kind of sniffing out the world order and the narrative of 2026. Now, with the same token, Davos 2020, everybody was extremely positive. That didn't work out that well. But I would say that most times, yeah, most times it works out better than not. But I think that's also addictive. Going to Davos, kind of sniffing out and being like, okay, what are people talking about? What's the angles? What do we know? What do we not know? How can I get new information? And I think for myself, at least, I go to Davos every year, and I feel so smart, and I know everything. And when I leave, I feel so dumb. I'm like, I had no clue what was going on. And I think that trajectory of changing your point of view, getting new information is healthy. I think you should change your mind. And Davos is the place where you will definitely find new impressions.
Well, so I think for me this year, I was working on a lot of AI projects and actually building AI applications quite successfully over the last 2 years. This Davos meant that I dropped building applications on AI. So, and for me, I think it's relatively easy to be a big fish in a small pond. Davos is just a small pond full of gigantic big fish.
Yeah.
So for me, talking to people, the other thing then is that like whatever tool that we're using now, whatever method, whatever process, if it's in the public domain, this means some other groups were working on it for 18 months beforehand. So that means that if somebody says, GPT-5 is out there, there's another group of people that have been working on it for 12 to 18 months beforehand. Davos is the kind of place where you meet the people that are working on this stuff. They know what the future will be in 6 months. They know what the implications will be when it rolls out in 12 and 18 months. So I think for me, going to Davos has been, let's say, knowing with a decent degree of certainty what the futures are likely to be, and then giving me much, much better strategic insight as to, let's say, where do I place my bets of time, money, effort. And I think that's invaluable. Now, another thing, though, that I do see is that generally the view of the Davos people about what's going to happen in the world is proven completely wrong every single Davos. I don't think I've been to a single Davos where the consensus view as what was going to happen in the world was actually correct, in the sense that they missed every material thing in the last 15, 16 years that I've been going. So they missed Arab Spring, and they missed COVID while it was a super spreader event. They also get terrified of the things that don't happen, like the Chinese credit disaster hasn't happened yet. So right now, but what I do see, and it kind of goes into what you were describing, is that you get to explore different types of futures. So even
Yeah.
if the specific future, the consensus was doesn't happen, at least you explored the other three or four options. So
Yeah.
therefore, it means that when whatever happens, the AI bubble, is it a bubble? Will it explode? Yes, no. My sort of odds are it'll be the week before Davos, the week of Davos, or the week up. Maybe not the week of, but the week after, because everybody's in Davos that week. But if it happens, it'll be basically tied around that. Why? Don't know. What will happen next? Don't know. Um, no, man, but what do you, I mean? How do you see? I mean, but as a strategic radar thing, I mean, like, anybody that's on a board of director, you should be going to Davos. I mean, I was actually just exploring, looking at the business of doing board training, and a lot of boards, like depending on the countries, have a statutory requirement to be up to date on the latest. I think for a lot of public companies, if you don't have one or more board members in Davos, you're not doing your job. It's one of those places. And also, once you're there, you need to get around. You can't just, if you're a board member of Citigroup, you can't just sit in the Citigroup lounge, sipping Citigroup coffee, listening to Citigroup employees talk about Citigroup stuff. Again, you're not doing your job. You need to get out there.
Yeah, but also to that, I would say you cannot claim to be a global company and not go to Davos. Davos is a world playground. And what I mean by that is that it's an arena with global players. They just attract. I mean, again, like Mark said, if we try to look at specific events, I don't think Davos is a laser pointer. I think that's completely the wrong way to use it. it's a big shining light. It will look at the big broad trends. That's what I think it is. It won't solve a binary question if a country is going to survive or not, or if we're going to have a credit crisis or not, or anything like that. As Mark said, I think that's like the weatherman trying to tell you if it's going to rain or be sunny um, on a random Tuesday in 2028. I don't think that's how it works. But I do think that Davos will give you the platform, the open up for multiple opinions and understanding. Again, I think that today, just as a bare example, and I don't know this as a fact, I'm just trying to illustrate an example here, but I think that there's not one AI industry. We have a Swedish AI industry, we have an American one, we might even have an East Coast and West Coast one, because it all depends on what these founders and the engineers are getting for impressions, how they're using it, what they're doing. So we might have a German AI unicorn that's going to be very different than an American one, or a French one, or a Norwegian or Swedish. I mean, there's so many avenues to go. It's not just one industry. And I think when all of these converge and meet at the same space, I think a lot of magic happens, honestly.
And I think it is one of the beauties of Davos is that, I mean, we could talk about AI, which we've done, but then we could talk about space. We could also talk about agriculture. We could talk about mining. We could talk about oil companies. We could talk about it's and one thing that's always struck me is that there are better thematic conferences for sure in many places around the world. But Davos for me has always been the place where, let's say, the best of all of the conferences all gather, and it's very international. So I think there's just and I mean, generally the intersection of these different, whether it's sort of investors connecting together to corporates, connecting together to service companies, whilst at the same time the Indonesians connecting together to the Argentinians, connecting to the Norwegians. You have this really sort of bizarre, wonderful synthesis where very bright minds and very capable minds, it's sort of your brain becomes alive for a week.
And it does. And I'll tell you this, I think as well, um, each and every year Davos changes. I think if we're looking at the logistical type of things, um, the first year in Davos, you'll never forget it. And the latest Davos that you've been to is not even close to the one that you just were at, regardless if it was just now in January, a few months ago, more or less, because it all changes, the landscape changes. But technically, you're moving along with that change. And I think that on a personal note, I think that many of our guests that we see kind of use Davos as well as a like a trimester, if you will. So after Davos, all you talk about for a few months is about Davos. And your friend's going to get sick and tired of you, and they might not believe some of the stories and all that. But, that's kind of what happens after Davos. Over summer, nobody really talks about Davos, and that's the way it is, and that's fine. But coming September, October, it really changes when you're sitting in meetings and saying, like, oh, are you going to Davos? Yeah, I am. Or no, I'm not. It really changes the way that you hold your meetings and the people that you meet at that level. And then the third one is technically 10 days, a few days before, during, and a few days after Davos, when you're actually in the heat of the moment. So it really is kind of, if you're an actor going to the Oscars, it's kind of like, oh, have you been invited? Yes or no? Or are you going? Um, it really is that way. And I think that there are not too many places where world leaders, politics, NGOs, other influential people can all meet. At, say, G20 meetings, it's too many lobbyists and too many politicians who are meeting and nothing actually happens. I'm not saying that everything happens in Davos, but I think it's a good start, right? It can spark a conversation. And here's a pro tip for all you guys. Of all the business cards and contacts that you'll make in Davos, don't email them until February is over, because their inboxes are just flooded. So stick out a little bit, wait a few weeks, at least 2 weeks. Maybe you don't agree with me, Mark. I would say, okay. What are you saying then?
Well, so what I found, I actually did an experiment with this year. So this year I ended up with like dramatically more follow-ups.
Okay.
What I did was that when I was meeting people in Davos, so I had my keyboard shortcuts, my text replacement stuff. And what I was really doing is that I was sharing my calendar to say, if you'd like to have a call, pick a time. And I was sharing that during the week of Davos. So I would have sent it to maybe like 100 people. I blocked out my calendar for, let's say, a week and a half to have a holiday afterwards. And I had about 60 calls arranged during February, very quick succession. Um, that for me was a game changer. So now, also, I think I was using primarily LinkedIn or WhatsApp. I mean, I hated email before. I'm even more disappointed having to use email every once in a while. And I know that corporates have a need for email. The thing is that the response rate is just appalling.
Yeah.
And the waste of time and space of doing email threads is just terrible. So what I found was that connecting with people on LinkedIn. So you're bypassing, particularly for the senior people, you're bypassing executive assistants, sending them your calendar booking, and then seeing if they book a time or not. That for me was a game changer. So I would say yes, that there might be certain ways of doing that. But the real problem is that, I mean, I was showing this the other day. I mean, I've got stacks of business cards that I've had from different Davoses, and there's a certain point at which when you start plowing through them, you just lose the will to live. You've gone through your first 50, you've picked out the five, you've done the five, you're now doing the next five. And it's just hard work. I just found this text replacement, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, immediate send, game changer.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that, and I saw a question here in the chat, is that do people really exchange business cards? I would still say yes, but then again, the average age of Davos is pretty high. I also think that the advantage of business cards is that you don't need to spell your name. Like nobody knows how to spell Widegren, a Swedish name, and it takes too long sometimes. But definitely QR codes, LinkedIn profiles. One of the top tips I would say for LinkedIn at least is that write a quick note in the chat to the person you just connected with, reminding them and you where you connected. Because having just random empty LinkedIn chats, you don't remember after a few years or after a few months, where did I connect with this person, how and where and all that. So I mean, there's a few tips depending on how you do it and how you go. And I don't have all the answers. I have a few, but depending on all the mistakes that I've done through my 10 years plus in Davos, I think I've done most of the mistakes, though. I think maybe not so many nowadays. I mean, a few, but I mean, nobody's perfect.
There's always new mistakes to go make.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
But I do see that I find WhatsApp frustrating because if you do a
Yeah,
QR code exchange on WhatsApp, it doesn't put in the person's name and last name.
yeah,
It's just a shitty application. So then what you need to do is you need to hand the phone over to the person for them to type in their name. Um, I personally, generally, I will admit this here in public, I really struggle to remember people's names. And I've done personal work on myself to know why. And that's because I need to have more context before I remember a person's name. But we exchange names immediately. And because, I mean, in Davos, I will meet 300 or 400 people. Sometimes you'll look at me. I mean, there was one year, I think the first year when on Davos got big, with people looking at me with a giant smile, and my brain would be super, super confused and upset because, like, you know me, but I don't know who you are, and I'm really sorry, and I'm quite embarrassed. Um, but that was because my picture was sort of known for
Mark,
things.
Mark, I have a twin brother. It's even worse for me. My brother can literally have had a conversation with somebody for half an hour, and then I meet them, and I have no clue that they've met. So that happens quite a lot. I think my experience as an identical twin is far different than anybody else's, so to speak.
Yeah, this is true. I do not have an identical twin, so maybe you were like Davos ready from birth.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I don't know. I still don't know if it's an advantage being a twin in Davos or not. I really don't know. We'll figure it out, um, so to speak.
Um, should we look through some of the questions that have come up?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. And guys,
Let's see.
keep the questions coming. I mean, you guys don't know everything. We don't know everything. But if you ask the question, I'm certain that Mark and myself can definitely answer 99% of the questions and definitely give you some pro tips on what actually is, or at least some good advice on the way. And I say that there's no small question nor no too big question to ask. So keep on coming. Here we have the Undavos plans this year. Tell us, Mark. When does it
And
start? When do you open up?
so and Davos, we will do. It's pretty much a Monday morning. So we
Yeah.
start at 9 a.m. with an unconference. So, and then we have sort of space for about 12 different groups. I think there are about 5 or 6 of them already signed up so far. So we'll have a few spaces left. And that gives you a 45-minute space, 30 people kind of chairs. So that gives us one. And we have a TEDx as well on Monday. And we're going to open that up. We won't have ticketing for that. So that will be our kickoff is on Monday, and then we'll wrap up with our closing party on Thursday night. That's the Magic Davos party. Now I know your party, Avicii Night, is on as well. Our party, because it's Davos and also a bit underground, we'll keep going till 3, and we see what happens afterwards. So we'll do some more of the underground stuff. Whereas you're in the rather shishi Belvedere Hotel.
Well, I mean, there's good and bad with that, but I mean, you guys are at the Mountain Plaza,
Yes.
which is, by the way, a fantastic place, I think. The best thing I think also with the Mountain Plaza is that compared to like Hotel Europe, you can't do any networking during the day at Hotel Europe because it's just too small. There's always events being prepared, and the now it's different because it's rented out this year. But Mountain Plaza, there's so many guests staying at there's probably 200 or 300 hotel rooms, I would assume,
Yeah.
at the Mountain Plaza. So if you're there, not only are you going to mingle with guests who live in the hotel, but also probably 9 out of 10 will be at on Davos up in the Mountain Plaza. And I think that, especially for you guys who really want to get attraction and kind of understand what the radar is all about, on Davos is a great community to get into. It's so easy. Again, if we look at getting a badge, you saw it. Mark and I was struggling in like what avenues should we choose and how you get your white badge and kind of navigate that space. On Davos, download the app. Like it's literally that simple. Join a webinar, download an app. It really is that simple, and you can't get it simpler. And I'll tell you this: in 2014, when I was there the first time, there was no on Davos that I was aware of. It was probably the year after, in 2015 or 2016, I think, that I kind of joined. And if you really look at it, especially if you're new, join the Davos app. It really is. I mean, anybody asks me, I have the same answer. Just do it, because that's the way you will get the best out of Davos, and you'll have a great foundation to start with. After going into the Davos groups and all that, immediately you're going to see that you're going to kind of grow out into different events. Other people will ask and say, hey, you should come to this event. You should come to that event. So in my opinion, I really think like abuse the app, like really take what Mark and the team has built, understand it, run into it, and just use it. I mean, it's foolish if you're not using it, honestly.
Maybe if I have a few clarifications then just to give some angles. So we have I'm just posting a few links into the chat group. So Davos is a community. And so there is a Telegram community called Davos. Within there, you've also got the Davos Beds group. There's a rides group. There's a group for people staying south of Davos. So that gives you a number of different things for the Davos community. Then there is undavos.com, the Undavos Summit. That's the Undavos Summit. So this is the 70 going on towards 100 sessions this year with 400 something speakers. So that gives you the Undavos Summit. The next thing is Davos Week. So Davos Week has become the official side event guide and basically the official calendar for all of the side event venues. So that's highly curated. We make sure that these are real people. We also make sure that all of the links that you're being encouraged to click on actually exist and are not malicious. Now, by the way, if I do a little detour, Davos is spy central. I don't know if you know this. So right now, industrial espionage, good at Davos. Proper espionage, good at Davos. There were in 2020, I think there were two Russian plumbers who were supposedly doing plumbing activities, but they were installing web cameras into where certain people were going to stay. Um, it sounds like a spy movie. In fact, the guy who co-wrote The Great Reset with Klaus Schwab was Thierry Mallory. So he wrote two actual whatever spy and thriller movies on Davos. The reason why I'm sharing that now is that I think it's perfectly fine to treat some of the people you're talking with as being a safe space in Davos, but maybe what people don't share and should share a little bit more is protect yourself digitally while you're in Davos. I personally do not use any Wi-Fi hotspot whatsoever when I'm in Davos, because I know for a fact that on a few years I've known that there have been really malicious Wi-Fi hotspots. And yet you're a businessman thinking, wow, Swiss SIM cards are very expensive. I'll use a free Wi-Fi. And all of a sudden somebody's hacked into your phone and will keep that hacking information forever. Maybe therefore this is just sort of something I would just I'm getting very whatever concerned about is that Davos is spy central. Protect yourself, and if you don't, it's your fault. What that means then is that using an eSIM card. So I use a Rolo for my eSIMs. You can go to the Swiss train station or the airport and get a Swisscom card for 20 francs for a week. And then you're able to use internet safely because you're just going it through the mobile provider. But right
Yeah,
now,
but
using
even
Wi-Fi
if you have
hotspots, stupid
Revolut,
idea.
but even if you
What's
have
that?
Revolut, you have a free eSIM inside Revolut in the app, and you
Oh,
just
cool.
download it, and it's just imported. I did it when I was in Dubai a few weeks ago, and just worked like that. So I highly recommend avoid all the roaming charges. Switzerland is not a part of the EU, so depending on your
Yeah.
contract, you can really have a hefty bill. So not only will you pay a lot of money to be in Davos, depending on where you live, but get an eSIM. You don't want to wake up with a, I don't know, 2,000 euro phone bill. That's probably, most people won't be happy about that.
There's another thing as well. So if you look at these USB things, another thing that I would recommend at Davos is that sure, if people have got whatever built-in USBs, I generally don't stick my USB stick into something that isn't mine. And that's because a USB stick is not just a place to get power, but it is an ability to transfer data. So even if there is a venue with a nice bit of a stand, and oh, you can just. So right now, I mean, it's better to be extremely suspicious. Now, generally, most people don't have anything interesting worth stealing. Totally fine. Specifically in Davos, that's not true. The other thing is that everybody is networked together. Um, I deliberately would rather scare you about this so you take some action. But right now, don't consider every single place in Davos to be a safe place. Protect yourself. It makes sense for you and for others as well.
I mean, when I drive a car, I wear a seatbelt, right? And it's not because I'm a bad driver. I consider myself a good driver, but not everybody is. And I can
Yeah.
also do mistakes. So I do see here, though, a question for me. Mark, do you want to go first or
And which one?
should I go
What's the
first?
question? It's a question. So, from your perspective,
Robin.
curating
Yeah.
global conversations, what unmet thematic areas would you wish more speakers and partners would tackle to differentiate your program from the WEF? Are you differentiated from the WEF? I mean, how are you different?
I think that, we're very different in many ways. I mean, we're not affiliated with the WEF, nor are we endorsed by the WEF in that sense. But I think that my brother and I, we choose broad strokes of subjects already during spring that we think that we can go with, and then we kind of test them out in different echo chambers, if you will, through friends and all that. The two that we chose this year is global leadership and accountability. And the reason that is that we saw last year that most of the democracies in the world had elections, and we kind of think that let's kind of relook through a different lens on how global leadership should be taken care of, but also accountability. What has the voters kind of gotten? Where are they going? And kind of which direction are we going? Now, it's very easy to take a very broad theme on that, and we don't have all the answers to it, but we think it's something that we should shine a light on. The second one is actually applied AI. So AI this year, I've understood so far there's about 300 AI companies in Davos this year. I think it was 200 last year. The biggest difference is that last year they were broke. This year they might have $500 million on their accounts. So you have a lot of different AI companies coming this year, and I think they're coming with force. Breaking through that buzz will be very difficult for probably 290 of those AI companies. However, what we've seen with AI as well is that it's just like an infrastructure, just like electricity or a website or anything else. You don't talk about having a website. You don't brag about your website anymore. You don't brag that you have an email because people assume that you have it. And the same thing like us doing this call, we have electricity. AI is the same. Really, really fast has that been understood that, okay, people are going to use AI, companies are going to use AI, and I'm pretty open with it. When I have meetings, I take notes and I tell everybody, I'm going to run it through ChatGPT and we'll see what the notes say out. Now, I don't handle too much sensitive or top secret or information like that, so I don't need to take security into consideration in that sense. But I think that the principle stands very strong, that AI is changing the world. It has changed the world, and it's going to continue on changing the world. So I think that the two themes that we chose was global leadership accountability and applied AI, and that's looking at a lens that AI is an infrastructure nowadays. It's not just a feature that you have as a filter on Instagram, as an example, that nobody uses anymore. AI is here to stay. That's kind of how we look at it. And
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, and also, I mean, maybe if we just sort of, for those people, like to think about how Davos works. So, I mean, the WEF has got its programming. They have about 300 panels, and there are many important topics. And unfortunately, a lot of them are online. So if you really want to follow the WEF program, it's actually very easy to do so. When you look at each of the promenade venues, companies will typically want to demonstrate their range of activities, and they'll have maybe 5 or 10 panels. So Accenture will cover a whole range of different topics. A country will typically cover a range of different topics, but there are thematic things like AI House, or I think Yara, the Norwegian food company, had of agriculture and food. So you do tend to find that a lot of these venues become nexus either for broad scale, 1 or 2 panels, sort of, or they go very, very deep. And I think you don't have that many panels to do anyway, so you don't have that much panel slots. And you're not going to interrupt the Avicii concert to do a quick panel on digital assets.
No,
So
we're definitely not going to interrupt the Avicii concert to talk about digital assets. And while we're on that thing, is that we're the Avicii concert is a tribute concert for mental health awareness. It's a gift from my brother and myself, and also from the team here at Global Conversations, that we gift to the Avicii Foundation. And the reason is that we really want to increase. We really want to increase the awareness of mental health, and that's usually for young men. And then we also want to increase the awareness of female health around the world. So we use that platform, and this year we're going to have about 500 or so guests at the Belvedere. That's Thursday evening. And we're going to have, if we're lucky, 5 or 6 top global names who are connected to Avicii. They've made music with him or knew him when he was alive. And I'll tell you this, these artists are not coming because my brother and I are asking them. They are there for Tim when he was alive, and they're there for the foundation and for the cause. So I have to say that, I mean, the first time we had it 3 years ago after the pandemic, that was when we thought it was really needed. It's a nonprofit evening. It really is a donation from us to the foundation. In all transparency, the foundation does pay for their own trips and some of their accommodation for themselves. But for the concert itself, it's a gift that Marcus and I donate to the foundation. And it's a true global platform of getting the word out. We calculated that this year, the intended invitees will represent about 200 million employees globally. So we really hope that that will make a dent in their thinking and making sure that their employees can really help out and make something good, like actually make a change. Like we don't have to get a contract signed or anything like that, but keep it in the back of their head, just like we were thinking about things. Make sure that these global leaders do that. And on a final note on the Avicii evening, is that mental health is nothing you can outsource. You can't call McKinsey or Deloitte and say, put a team on it, let's figure it out. If it's your spouse, if it's a child, friend, whatever it is, you have to put your time into it. And I want to be clear as well. Marcus and I, we didn't know Avicii. We never met him. But today we actually, 10 of his friends are joining us that knew him since he was a kid. And they're helping making sure that we're not two clowns up in Davos having a concert with the wrong messaging. So we're inviting them. You might meet some of them during the evening. I really hope you do. And what happens is that they are there as guardians, if you will, to make sure that Marcus and I don't act like idiots. That we really keep the ethos right and the artists are connected and having all of these things. So, and as you notice, I can talk about this all day, but I think that's one of the proud moments we have this year, I think.
Well, and I think as well, I mean, there are some truly incredible people there. And I think it also goes as that even if we started this conversation around almost like the business of Davos, there is the platform of Davos that helps not just raise awareness, sometimes it's raising money, sometimes it's putting material projects in place.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well is that sort of, and if you like, it's a mental health message too, you're not alone.
Exactly. And also, to be clear, we're not raising money for it at all. It truly is a relationship that we have with the foundation that it should go this way. It shouldn't go this way. And here we actually have this in the office. Pretty cool, I think, that we got. I don't know if you guys can see it. I hope you can. So this is one of the LP. We haven't played it, so I don't know how it sounds, but it looks cool.
But what I was also getting towards as well is that with the sort of idea that you're not alone is that
Yeah.
there is no global conversations is in its own completely separate bubble, and then Davos is in its separate bubble, and
Yeah.
never the
No.
twain shall meet. Is that really like one of the reasons why there are so many involved in this Undavos community is that individuals like me and Alex have been connecting together in our case for years and working out how we help each other, but also how we help the people that we know. And I saw there was a question earlier about, let's say, how these networks work. I think it's also when I spoke to Alex, I've been thinking about other people within Davos that can also contribute, be part of the cause, the process, and everything else. And then in the same way, there are these connections, whether on the business side, so they're just all of these connections are sort of coming in, and you're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, the theme that we're running with this year for the Avicii tribute concert is silence saves no one. And the whole idea there is to use music as one of the key elements to make sure that people, connect and they can share. I mean, it really is an emotional evening. We take Avicii's music and we slow it down, and we have amazing artists that are doing things in a whole new way with his music. And we're very proud of it. I really love it. I think it's amazing. Same thing at the Swedish lunch when we run our panels. The only way to get 400 world leaders to shut up is to have a girl who's like 18 years with a beautiful voice singing For a Better Day by Avicii. And now it's a practical thing. Like if you would have asked me 7 years ago, I wouldn't have cared less if somebody would have sung at a event. But nowadays, I really think it resets your mind. I'm a changed person in that sense. And I think it's really important to lift and bring up these things, not to judge or tell you what to do or think, but let's shine some light on this. And then if you think it's interesting, you'll go forward with it. If you don't find it's interesting, no harm, no foul.
Well, and I think as well, I mean, that also highlights it's a sort of personal view, but it's also an organizational view as well. It's about experience. I mean, we want to be into something, we want to feel it, we want to experience it. it should be somewhat unusual. It should spring to life. It shouldn't be just your daily thing. Um, and I think it's great that whatever organizers like you are crafting these experiences, very intentionally designing these experiences. But I think it also means that for all of us joining at these things, these are experiences. It's not just about flipping over whatever 100 business cards. It's around having an experience and being present within it, and then creating experiences that others can get involved in as well. And I'm aware the time is getting up. Maybe, and we should sort of finish on time. We're getting more and more into the mode of Swiss time, which means you finish on time. Um, Concluding thoughts. I mean,
Well,
I
I
miss
think
you
for
already.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think from my way, I think, we have a whole schedule filled of events. There's always new people, there's always old friends that we're meeting. I'm very excited each year. I just think that as a general tip to kind of, unless there's any other questions in the chat, I think prepare, prepare, prepare. That's a general tip for Davos. First of all, get your accommodation. That's what you really should lock down first. All the events and all the other stuff, it will sort itself out. So if you need a badge, get a badge. If you don't need a badge, don't get a badge. If it's your first time, listen. If it's your 10th time, you'll continue to listen. But in between, maybe you'll say a few things. So I think, just be prepared, be open, and meet a ton of people. Be a part of the community, because without you guys, Marcus and I would be up on the mountain having the Swedish lunch by ourselves and just drinking coffee, and nobody else would be there. So without the guests, the event is nothing. Without the speakers, the event is nothing. You need all of the trifecta, if you will, to kind of work out.
No, I mean, I think really good message. I mean, I don't have too much more to add. I mean, you're part of this thing. If you're struggling, just reach out. We'll be able
Yeah.
to help figure things out. And I do think now's your preparation. Maybe if I modify it, prepare your follow-ups now. One of the things that always gets me is that, I mean, Christmas will come up and all of a sudden you don't have time to make your PowerPoint or your plans or anything else. And then January's there, so you got to catch up. And what I've seen a lot of people do is that they somehow think that magically follow-ups will just occur as soon as they've finished. No, wrong. So prepare, prepare, prepare. Yes, but make sure at least one of those P's stands for follow-up.
Yeah.
But also, actually, but another thing then is that make sure you cancel your normal work commitments that week because you have to be present. I mean, it might sound like a yoga type of thing, but totally, you're kind of wasting your time and effort if you're really not just mentally present, but if you're like physically there. You don't have to sort of run around with a Zoom call. But it'll be intense. If it's your first time, it'll be really intense. Second time, it'll be intense for different reasons. Third time, you're beginning to figure out it'll be intense. And I mean, so it's still intense for me, and it'll be time number 18. So like I'm totally into it.
And it's a presidential year. So you have Trump on the ground with probably 100.
60 world leaders already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Already. I mean, oh yeah, it's gonna be a show.
And if you are deciding to come, always remember, reach out to community to say, I'm going to be in Davos. Are you around? Can we meet up? And
Yeah,
even if they're
always.
not, at least they know that you're a Davos person.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, share your knowledge. That's what Mark and I really believe in. Share your experience, share your tips and tricks. And again, in the groups, I think Mark and I are, one of us is always online. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's any questions, and then all the gossip will be shared there as well. That's always fun. Things
Not all
happen.
the,
There's
not all the
traffic.
gossip. We have to
Not all
work
the
out what's
gossip.
real gossip and not. But yeah.
Okay, in our groups, Mark, all the gossip goes.
Yeah.
And then in the bigger groups, you'll find out some of it. But it's always nice jumping in the groups and flickering through and seeing some of the photos that people are sharing or experiences, or the train stops working. Then you'll find out through the groups.
Yeah.
So you won't read it online because nobody cares outside of Davos. But in the groups, you'll find instant information that will really catch you and bring you up informed. So yeah, just be active, prepare, and share. Maybe that's the 3 words: be active, prepare, and share. Maybe, I don't know.
Thank you ever so much, and a conversation to be continued. Thank you ever so much, and thanks Robin for hosting us with this as well, and thank you everybody for coming. Really appreciate it.
Cool, guys. Greetings from Stockholm. Bye-bye.
Ciao.